Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why range of motion isn't everything when it comes to hitting big lifts, because people harp on and on about this and they make a big deal about, well, this person over here, they have this massive bench press arch, right, and the wide grip because they're really small with short arms and everything, and it lets them only move the weight a short distance. Yet here's my question to you guys. That's true, and in theory, it takes less work to do that. But how many people have broken world records in the bench who pretty much bench close grip without even a big arch? So here's the question. If that gave such a massive advantage, then why aren't more of the people who do it that way, benching the biggest weights in the world? And outside of the very, very light weight classes, it doesn't do a lot. We take the same thing with the sumo deadlift. There's plenty of us who are stronger on conventional, right? Lots of us are stronger on conventional. There's people who have elite numbers on both. And that's been the fascinating thing. Take Kaylor Wooldham as a perfect example. People are like, well, he's got those really long arms, and that's why he's able to deadlift well over 900 pounds at those body weight, because he does sumo and he shortens the range of motion way down. And there's probably some truth to that. But I remember years ago, in one of his training clips, he was playing with conventional. He was at the gym and he did 800 pounds for 3 reps with a conventional deadlift. 3 reps with 800 pounds. So let me ask you the question. You start doing the math there, that puts him close to a 900 deadlift. Mathematically, that's close to a 900 even conventional. It's still 4 times his body weight. And he's not a light guy. It's over 200 pounds. I mean, we could go over to the benching, look at Julius Maddox. Yeah, he beat some people who were doing really wide grip, but Julius Maddox benches what I would call medium grip, borderline close grip. But for his size, it's probably close to close grip. Doesn't have a super big arch, and the bar travels a pretty long distance. All right, we could say the same thing with the squat. Yes, the power squat for many people, it cuts the range of motion, involves more muscle. To see someone like Dan Bell, who squats extremely narrow. So here's our problem with these obsessions with technique and cutting range of motion. They don't apply to everyone. And if anything, here's the thing that I'm gonna point out. When we start doing these things that cut a little bit of range of motion out, the people they seem to help the most are the people who already have a short range of motion without doing them. In other words, people who are built to really deadlift, right? Really built to deadlift, a lot of times will get something out of the sumo. Because if they're only pulling the weight like 6 inches, sure. But cutting out that couple inches of range of motion doesn't seem to do a lot for a lot of other people. Notice that with the people who pull sumo, and they pull really enormous elite weights with it. There's some similar body structures going on. Same thing with the benching. The people who get the most out of the really massive arch and the ultra wide bench are people who have short arms. In other words, it's also a little less stress on their shoulder joint, because they're able to get the range of motion way down at the bottom, where it really puts that stress on the shoulder. They get away with it. For a lot of people with longer arms, not so much the case. We can go on and on and on with these and explain the different mechanics, but generally speaking, people don't understand, because we're only doing 1 rep, the fatigue from increasing range of motion just isn't that big of a deal. Now, we could talk about that fatigue being important over a 10 rep set, because a lot more work is being done. And from a hypertrophic perspective, there's some possible merit there. And people who are doing the really short versions are possibly losing some hypertrophy if they're using that movement for higher volumes. Maybe. But when we're talking about a 1 rep set, the energy difference to change the distance 10% on a true max and the amount of time involved, this isn't that big of a deal. If anything, here's what it comes down to. It's not about the distance, it's about the time. How quickly, how much time are you having to strain with that movement? How many seconds are you exerting maximum force? And for people who can move the weight faster, and this is going to be the key word, if you can move the weight faster with a higher bar speed, with a grip or a stance that has a longer range of motion, but it cuts down the time of your rep, it's probably advantageous. Okay, that's an important point. Remember when Louis Simmons always said strength was measured in time, not weight? This is an example. Now, that's a multifaceted meaning, because it could also mean training time, extrapolated over time, but he also meant speed, bar speed. And if you get faster leverages and more pop with a closer grip, even though you move the bar a shorter distance, you may be stronger on it. On a squat, if with a really narrow stance, you're able to bounce it off your hamstrings more, you're able to get tighter and drive through with more speed out of the bottom. Just keeping in mind, these are raw lifts. Speed out of the bottom is everything. If you can generate more bar speed with a narrower stance than a wider, what's going to happen? You're potentially going to be stronger with the narrower stance. All right, same with our deadlifting. The narrowest stance on the deadlift, for those of us who aren't fat, the really narrow stances usually allow us to pop the weight off the floor faster. Well, if we get faster speed off the floor, locking hits easier. Blasting through our sticking points is easier, unless the muscles involved in your lockout are really weak. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Find the grip and the position that allows you to generate the highest bar speed. And I would suggest that for many of you out there, that's probably more important than shortening the range of motion, unless you can really cut that range of motion down to an absurdly short amount. So find the position that lets you move the weight the fastest, and then get really, really good at it and build as much muscle as possible. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.